Good evening. From Long Beach Parks Recreation and Marine Department headquarters in El Dorado Park West, this is the Parks Make Long Beach series, a video series highlighting the people, places, programs, and partnerships that make Long Beach parks. You can follow us on social media at hashtag ParksMakeLB. I am Meredith Reynolds, the Long Beach Park Planning and Partnerships Manager, and I am your host for today's episode on parks that make people. Long Beach has 171 parks, 6 miles of beaches, and over 3,200 acres of open space. We have the largest municipally operated marina with over 3,100 boat slips and have over 1 million visitors a year to our parks and even more that participate in our programs. Long Beach's open space is so fundamental to who we are as a community that is literally the city's namesake. As we develop parks and open space, it is critical that our engagement processes are inclusive because our community members have valuable things to contribute about how they use our places and spaces. While perhaps not always specifically designed to be unavailable to certain facets of our community, the fact is the lack of access to public engagement processes has become a structural barrier. Removing barriers to participation means Long Beach can provide inclusive opportunities to participate in public processes, like planning for parks, that build trust and demonstrate empathy. Inclusive community engagement processes begin to break down the systems that perpetuate inequity, and for parks and open space, begin the necessary steps toward park equity and improving community health. To be successful, it is also critical that our communities are our partners in park planning work. Today's episode will highlight some of these amazing partners who help make the parks that make the people. To introduce our folks on the call today, we will begin with a lightning round. So I will call on you by name. Please introduce yourselves by sharing your name, your organization and its mission or purpose, and your favorite Long Beach park or program. And today we will start with Joni.
Hi, my name is Joni Ricks Odie. I am Vice President of the DeForest Park Neighborhood Association. Our mission is inspired to build a better community. And my favorite park is our namesake, which is DeForest Park here in North Long Beach.
Thank you, Joni. Next, we'll go to Brian.
Hi there, my name is Brian Golszewski. I'm part of City Fabric. We're a nonprofit design studio here in Long Beach, and we are dedicated to enhancing communities through reshaping communities through collaborative public interest design, planning, policy development, and advocacy. My favorite park is Bixby Park, just because my son has spent a lot of his development years in that park.
Thank you, Brian. All right, Mary, we'll shoot it over to you for our lightning round. If you can introduce yourself by sharing your name, your organization and its mission or purpose, and your favorite Long Beach park or program.
Hi, so my name is Mary Simmons. I'm from AOC 7 Neighborhood Group. So AOC 7 stands for Anaheim, Orange, Cherry, and 7. My favorite park is MacArthur Park. I'm totally biased, but that is my favorite park. I love it so much. And I feel like our mission is building community. Like that's where we're at right now, building community. And I'm so grateful to be part of the AOC 7 board. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mary. Let's begin by learning more about each of our organization's work on the call today. So I'm going to ask, what does your organization do and who do they serve? And how does this work connect to our local parks? With that, Brian, I'll start with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought I was going to be second or third. I guess I'll try to do my best. City Fabric, we are a partner with the community, health department, Parks and Rec, and many other departments and other community partners around enhancing park access and the quality of those parks that are in our community. And so that takes a lot of different forms. Developing, in the case that we're going to be talking about, is developing community-based vision plans for helping new parks and enhancing our existing parks. So I think that's it. There's probably more to it, but I'm sure we'll have a little bit of back and forth.
Very good. Let's go next to Joni. What does your organization do? Who do they serve? And how does this work connect to local parks?
My neighborhood, we're a neighborhood association. So our goal is to inform the community about things that affect them, to improve the quality of life, to disseminate information, So we work very closely with our District 9 Council office and as well as the District 8 Council office. Our neighborhood association actually stems two different districts here, District 8 and District 9. We also put on lots of community events. We think it's really important in order for us to build community by doing community. And so we try to bring the community together, whether it's our neighborhood association or the other 10 or so neighborhood associations here in North Long Beach. I think your question was, what do we do and who do we serve? And then, like I said, our goal is to serve primarily our neighborhood and then also the greater North Long Beach community as well.
Thank you, Joni. And then Mary, we'll go back to you. You tell us a little bit more about your organization, what they do, and who do they serve?
Okay, so I'm here. So we do a lot, actually. We reinvented ourselves a couple different times. So AOC 7 stands for Anaheim, Orange, Cherry, and 7. So we're located in the central Long Beach area. We serve all our community. We have about 10,000 residents. And we start off by first like building community, bringing our businesses together, engaging our residents, informing them and empowering them with all the resources that we have. With the recent park visioning, that was really engaging. Like we actually brought our whole community together. It was a multi-language language program where we had to have everything translated in Khmer, English, Spanish. So, and I felt like that really like brought out the ownership. Like I didn't realize how many families and residents use that park. Like everybody just came out the woodworks basically. So I was so excited, and I have to thank Meredith, City Fabric, and Parks, and everyone who helped us with that visioning plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for that. I really appreciate it. You know, we can't do what we do without our important community partners. So there's always a great partnership to be had when we're building community together. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about kind of the potential of planning. So I have the privilege of working in the park planning field for the city that I live in, for a city that I love. And I get to see every day the glimpses of things that you have all shared, you know, so far, and it makes this work really meaningful. But as Brian pointed out, sometimes there's not immediate gratification that comes with this because it takes time to amass grant funding, you know, to design a project that is a concept. But it's really important that those steps take place because you can see the momentum over time and things can be well thought out and you can bring the community along as a part of that process. We can talk a little bit about how these park planning efforts empower and uplift voices and build lasting relationships with our community. I think you all touched on a little bit, but if you had advice to share with other neighborhood associations or other community groups in the city of Long Beach, you know, what would you tell them about how these park planning efforts can empower and uplift voices and build those relationships? And Mary, we can go ahead and start with you.
I would just say get involved. Like it's so easy to get involved. It's just like come to a meeting, it'll be infectious. You'll catch on like-mindedness and you know, dream. Like why not just dream about it? And you know, it can happen. So change happens, community comes together, and yeah, so I would just say get involved. That's my biggest thing. Get involved.
And Joni, what about you?
You know, I was actually thinking about that in terms of just because Uptown has been going through a lot of kind of revisioning and revitalization in general. And so I think over the last, cause I've lived here, oh boy, started dating myself. I've lived here, I think since I've lived in Uptown since like 2012. But, you know, even I like, you know, I remember, you know, what the forest looked like before the wetlands went in, right? Like, so I was there when we had the nature trail and we were having the conversation with Meredith about, you know, trying to amass the funding for that, planning for that, thinking about, you know, what it was going to look like. So I think one of the things that we can do as community members is remind people, like you've already, like for a lot of people, we've lived through some examples of that already, right? And then right now we're going through this whole revisioning of Atlantic Avenue with some of our development and things like that. And and it's reminding me how important it is to get people involved at the ground level, because when ideas come up and decisions are made, then they feel left out, or they feel like their voice wasn't heard. And it was just like, hey, if you engage in the process early, you'll really understand why we as a community pushed for a specific thing, or why we identified, X lack of, open space north of the 91. Like, you'll understand those types of conversations, and then people feel more engaged, and then they're more excited when those projects come to fruition, right? But I think I really do think that for many people, it's really just reminding them that it's not all just planning. Like, we actually can see the benefits of some of that prior planning already in our communities, and then think, okay, now what's the next step? What is the next thing that we can do to reminding people to build on that? So.
Right. And then Brian, what would you like to contribute in terms of your perspective of getting to see a variety of these efforts?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely try to develop these processes to educate and empower the residents, and a lot of them are already active, but, making sure that there's a shared understanding of, what it is to, reimagine their parks, but also operate and manage the parks and the resources that go into that. I mean, we really want to build advocates for not just their respective parks, but for the whole park network, understanding that there's a lot of resources that go into managing, programming, and maintaining, and even expanding our parks. So the more advocates we have, the more stewards we have, I think the better off our not just our individual parks are, but our entire park network.
Yeah, certainly. I know from my perspective, one of the favorite parts of that role is that capacity building, because you get to build those relationships with your community. And while generally speaking, local government is more trusted than any other sort of level of government, there still is this concept that I know I believe in very wholeheartedly, of building that trust and credibility. And letting the community help shape what the outcome is without sort of imposing your own sort of view or your own outcome, particularly when you don't use that park or live in that neighborhood and don't have to deal with it every day. I think that's a really special part of some of these processes that we've been able to create, that build these lasting relationships and create that community. So thank you all for sharing. All right, so to wrap up, let's finish our final question here. This is a kind of more fun question. What is your word of the year that motivates you and drives your organization's work? And with that, I will start with Brian.
Oh, I needed to give me a little more time. Resilient. I think that our team, our communities, our city has been resilient. This has been a tough year for a lot of people, a lot of families, not just lives lost, but this is a downer, but lives lost, but also livelihoods. But our community has been resilient and supportive of each other. And I have a strong degree of faith that when we come back to sort of a new normal, we're going to be better, and we're going to be better to each other. And so resilient, that's going to be my word.
Yeah, very good. Certainly, parks have been an essential piece of holding space, and have been really shown to be the essential spaces that they are. That's come out of this. And for me to see how many more people are using our places and spaces and in our parks, has been really, really heartwarming to see, and kind of that one of the silver linings that has come out of a really, really tough year. So great word. Next, Joni, what is your word of the year?
I was going to say, well, resilient is a good one. I think Brian may have stolen that one from me. But the other one I would say would be thrive. I think in the midst of what's all been everything that's happened in the last year, I do think actually our community has thrived, right? So and I think, as you mentioned, there's been a rediscovery, I think, of some of the kind of local gems and aspects of our community, our neighborhoods, that oftentimes we kind of forget about, or we're tempted to go to another city or another, another part of the city or another area to enjoy park space or go to a restaurant or et cetera, et cetera. And so there was kind of this rediscovery of what is actually in your neighborhood, that you may have, either not discovered, not experienced, or had kind of forgotten about. And so I think that's actually allowed our communities to thrive in certain ways, because it's reminded us of what opportunities we actually have that are already close to home.
Yeah, definitely have seen a lot of people, just in our parks, out and about, that have shared on social media that, I never knew this was here in my neighborhood, and that always, gives me a little internal chuckle and makes me happy.
I run into a lot of people at the DeForest wetlands who
I
say
bet.
that.
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah. All right, Mary, what is your word of the year?
I'm gonna say inspired. Like, let's stay inspired. Like, every time I see something on Facebook or like the surveys or like the new Hamilton, is it the Hamilton Loops?
The Hamilton Loop.
The Hamilton Loops and other things that are happening, the surveys and just everything. Like, I'm inspired. I love to see my community at work doing whatever, and that's including like all city agencies. Like, let's do this. Let's stay inspired and be inspired. So that would be my word. Thank you.
Very good. And I'll share, just to wrap up here, my word of the year. My word of the year is shine. So very similar to the sentiment of others. When one of us shines, all of us shines, and vice versa. And so that's very sort of apropos to the theme for today, that we're highlighting our partners who have done a lot of really great work in our places and spaces. Thank you to Joni and Brian and Mary for joining us this evening and sharing a little bit more about who they are, what they do, and how they have been able to build community. So today's episode has shown how parks make people. Thank you to our community partners who shared your story and about your role and how how parks make Long Beach for you. You can see the story on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can follow the Parks Department on social media at #ParksMakeLB. Stay tuned for future episodes of the Parks Make Long Beach series, highlighting the people, places, programs, and partnerships that make Long Beach parks. See y'all next time.